Hello guys, welcome to another video. Now a couple of weeks ago, Grinding Gear Games flew me out to Los Angeles to playtest the early access build for Path of Exile 2. And in this video, I'm going to give my first impressions of the game. Let's get into it. For this event, we were allowed to choose any of the 6 classes that are available to play in early access, and I've been quite fond of the Mercenary ever since it was announced. The recent grenade teasers only made me want to play that class more, and I immediately chose Mercenary. I started off with WASD as well, which is something completely new to me for this genre, as I've never played a different ARPG other than Path of Exile 1, and I have to say, WASD felt really good. Even early on, I felt that the overall character control has vastly improved, and being able to move and shoot at the same time felt really good. One thing that I immediately noticed right off the beach was how well the animations and sound all flowed seamlessly together. From one crossbow shot to the next, and reloading, and even between dodge rolls, nothing felt out of place. The game felt pretty much as it does in PoE1 when you're on the beach, only everything is just much higher quality. The visuals are higher quality, the sound is higher quality, the controls are higher quality, everything you'd expect from the sequel. The dodge roll took a bit of getting used to in terms of timing and direction, but I found it quite easy to read if a monster ability would be avoidable using the dodge roll or not. In general, it's much easier to see everything happening on the screen, and I hope this kind of visual clarity will be present in the endgame as well. Progressing the Merc felt quite slow, and considering this was my first time playing Path of Exile 2, I didn't really think too much of it and kept going. It wasn't until we stopped for lunch and I was able to share some experiences with some of the other creators at the event that I learned that many of them also had the same thoughts. Perhaps the Merc is a little weak early on. It wasn't until much later on in the day that Big Ducks let me know that he had the same experience in the early game, but also that the Merc gets much stronger once you're able to pick up some additional gems and supports, but by that time it was already too late. I had already re-rolled a Warrior. And let me tell you, the Warrior is so much stronger in the early game, it's like night and day. I was able to destroy the Devourer first time and kill it in about a fifth of the time it was taking me on the Mercenary. The Warrior felt very different to play compared to the Merc, but not in a bad way. I opted for WASD again on this class too. Jonathan had said in the presentation at the start of the day that he plays all of the classes with WASD, but Octavian likes to play some of the classes with the old school point and click. Still, I wanted to get the experience of playing WASD on this class too. The Warrior overall feels a lot slower, but its hits are much chunkier. You really feel it when you pull off a good combo and the monster life bar just melts. It's also considerably tankier, getting a decent chunk of life early on from strength scaling. It's extremely easy to die to packs of monsters if you don't use the dodge roll or block correctly, so having the extra life is a nice bonus. The main ability combo that I was using is Earthquake and Shockwave Totem. Earthquake is an attack that creates an area of jagged ground that explodes with an aftershock after 3 seconds. Since the initial hit doesn't deal much damage, waiting for the aftershock takes a bit too long, but you can trigger the aftershock to explode faster with Shockwave Totem, which slams the ground and explodes any jagged ground in its area of effect. I found that placing a totem and then following up with Earthquake was ideal, as the totem slam would go off right after I hit the initial Earthquake, immediately triggering the jagged ground for a double hit which dealt massive damage. I had my Earthquake linked to Chance to Bleed support to provide some extra lingering damage, and later on I also linked the Shockwave Totem with Limit support so that I could spawn 2 of them, improving the odds of being able to quickly trigger Earthquake's secondary hit whenever I needed it. As I progressed through the early zones, I found one thing more enjoyable than everything else, and that's the boss fights. The 3 or 4 bosses that I had defeated up to that point all had vastly different mechanics which made them feel like a unique experience. Most of them were hard and some were exceptionally difficult and took many tries to defeat. But I appreciate the fact that you can outgear and come back for a boss if it's too much the first time around. But this is where I really enjoyed the medium core experience of Path of Exile 2. If you fail a boss fight, you need to start all over again. This completely removes the corpse rushing element from softcore, and pushes you towards learning the mechanics, both of the boss and your own abilities. And that's a good thing because the bosses have great mechanics. The large attacks that you need to avoid have good telegraphing, and you know you shouldn't get hit by them. And when you do get hit by them, it doesn't feel like you were cheated. It's more like, yep, I got hit by that, that's on me, and you go again. In the very hard encounters, there's that progression element similar to Souls-like games where you learn the mechanics as you go and push the encounter further and further each time. Towards the end of Act 1, my character felt really powerful. I had just acquired a massive weapon upgrade and the damage difference was insane. Rare monsters that were previously taking 15 or 20 seconds to kill now died in a single combo. This upgrade came right in time for the Act 1 boss, the Count.
No noose this time. I'll remove your head myself!
This fight is incredible. Everything from the animations, the sound, the vibe of the setting, all of it comes together here for this epic showdown. And this is where I really got to thinking about Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1. And the more I played PoE2, the more I got the impression that this is much less a different game, and more so that this is just a PoE1 remaster of sorts. It's like the ARPG that they always wanted to make, but never had the resources to do so. PoE1 started from humble beginnings, a few guys trying to recreate the magic of Diablo 2 fused with their own new ideas. As the game grew, they built on top of those foundations, layers and layers of new content, and by this point, Path of Exile 1 is a masterpiece. Only now, 11 years later, has it received its concurrent player peak in the most successful league to date, the Settlers of Kalgur. But despite that, the developers are limited with what they can do with PoE1. They can't really go back and change those core foundations that everything else is built upon. To do that would be a monumental task and would undoubtedly break the game in the process. Path of Exile 2 is the ARPG they wanted to make back then, but didn't have the resources to do. This is the result of a massive team working on this project for years, with resources magnitudes greater than what they had to create PoE1. From the time I had spent playing on PoE2 at this event, I left with the impression that PoE2 is the natural upgrade to PoE1. Every aspect is higher quality: the graphics, the animations, sound design, skill system, storytelling and world building, the dialogue, boss fights, the combat in general, more classes, more ascendancies. Everything just feels like it's been taken up a notch. And as the event came to a close and one of the organisers told us that we had just a few minutes left, there was so much that I still wanted to do. And then... Leaving the event hall, I remember feeling like I just wanted to play more PoE2. That's all I wanted to do, just play more. Prior to this event, I hadn't played PoE2. I didn't get invited to any of the previous events or any of the closed betas, and I had my doubts about the game. But now that I've played it, I can honestly say that all I want to do is play more. I can't wait for the early access launch. Bring on December 6th.